Good morning. We are pleased to be joined by Rory McIlroy here at the interview room at the Travelers Championship. Rory, what's it like to be back in Connecticut?
Yeah, it's good. You know, I missed this event last year, licking my wounds from Pinehurst, but I made a commitment to Travelers to be back this year. So, you know, I'm excited to be back. I think, you know, the weeks after major championships in these events, sometimes when you're in contention and you're trying to win them, it can feel quite difficult to go play the next week. But, you know, after a week like I had at Oakmont last week, you know, where you're not quite in the mix, but you might feel like you found something in your game, you're excited to come back and play again. So, yeah, you know, looking forward to the week. This is the perfect sort of chaser for what Oakmont was last week, and you know, nice to get out on a golf course where you feel like you can make quite a few birdies.
Right. Well, we'll go ahead and open to the questions. If you have a question, please raise your hand and we'll get a mic. We'll start over here on the left with Dan.
This is the last, I think, signature event of the season. I'm just curious, I mean, before the playoffs. I'm just curious how you feel like the limited fields are going and what your opinion is after playing a week where it's 156 guys and a cut and kind of the old school 72-hole format versus what we have this week.
I think the signature events have went great. I mean, if you look at the list of winners, you know, myself, Ludwig, JT, Scotty, Russell Henley at Bay Hill, like, I mean, the list of winners, I think they work. I think they do. You know, they get all the top players together. I think they've produced exciting finishes with the best players in the world battling one another. Played on, you know, some of the most iconic venues that we have. Yeah, I think they've worked. I think that the hard thing is it comes in such a condensed schedule. You know, this is the last signature event of the year, and you know, it feels like we've only got started, but you know, we're only into June. We're not even halfway through the year. So, but in terms of the product of the signature events and what they were designed to achieve, I think they've done that.
We're going to go over here on the right.
Hey, Rory. I was just wondering what your thoughts are on Brian Rowlett stepping in as the new CEO, and if you've had any time to talk to him yet.
Yeah, I haven't. I haven't met Brian yet, but obviously I followed quite a bit of the news and the coverage yesterday, and you know, he certainly said all the right things and has an amazing background. You know, 2 decades in the NFL, helping them you know, expand internationally and, you know, basically become the behemoth that they have become. So for him to bring that experience to the PGA Tour, I think will be amazing. And, you know, I think it's great that, you know, Jay is there to help with the smooth transition also. So, yeah, I think it's a really, you know, positive thing for the tour.
Go to the middle with Kevin.
Hey, Rory, in terms of recovery after the U.S. Open or recovery in any week, are there a couple things you make sure to do every week for recovery, whether it's physical or mental, and is that maybe more important after the U.S. Open, or is it just as important, I guess, any week?
I think it's important every week. Yeah, I mean, there's certain things. You know, I think everyone's got their own way of recovering from, you know, grueling weeks. But I think they're just like the little habits that you pick up along the way, whether it's physical or whether it's mental or getting away from it, and you know, giving yourself a little bit of time to recharge. But yeah, I think it's important to take care of yourself physically and mentally to you know, especially when you play these big events and there's a lot of, you know, pressure and expectation. It's, you know, it is important to get away from all that as well.
Is a lot of it like Sunday night, or is it kind of Monday morning as you're traveling?
I think the Mondays are, you know, I think most people, you know, I certainly like to, you know, unwind and have a glass of wine on a Sunday night, so I wouldn't say that's the best recovery modality, but certainly Mondays are where I try to get back into, or give myself that day. You know, I think Mondays in between tournaments are quite important as a reset. So that's what I try to do.
And the birdie record, PGA Tour sanctioned, is 9. It was set in 1994. It hasn't been surpassed since. And a lot of records in golf and things keep going lower and lower. But I'm curious your take on why kind of it is set at 9, and if you think
9 in a row.
9 in a row.
I mean, I make 2 birdies in a row, and I'm thinking, ooh. So I think it's more of a mental thing, where, yeah, you start to make a few birdies in a row, and you start to think about it, and I think that's the worst thing you can do. You just need to try to get out of your own way when you're on a run like that. But yeah, I think it'll be a long time since when you see someone with 10 birdies in a row out here, especially with how difficult the setups are getting and how tough the courses are.
Do you have an idea of what your longest run might be, either on tour or not on tour?
No, I mean, look, I know I've played, stretches of holes, like 9 under through 10 or whatever, but I don't know.
We'll go back to David in the back, right back there. Thank you.
Thanks. Rory, you sort of hinted at this a little bit before, but the PGA Tour schedule, having gone Memorial, Canadian Open, U.S. Open, challenging golf courses can really sort of grind people up. And then you come here, and traditionally scores are much, much lower. Is it almost good in some ways inside the locker rooms when guys are talking about it, that you have an event where you don't have to maybe grind for as many pars as you would at some of those events, that the timing of this event where traditionally scores go really low is actually kind of welcome?
I think it is welcome, especially after, look, the guys that played Memorial, that was a grind. And look, there's a lot of guys in the field this week where this is their 4th tournament in a row. So, yeah, they've been put through the ringer the last couple, few weeks, and yeah, this is a welcome setup where they feel like they can relax a little bit and not have to grind so much for your score.
Do you have to mentally make any adjustments or changes coming from Oakmont, traditionally U.S. Open golf courses and things like that year after year, and coming here where you're trying to grind out pars and stuff like that? You make 4 or 5 pars in a row here, you might feel like you're losing ground to the field.
A little bit. I sometimes struggle with that when I go back to Europe as well, because the setups traditionally in Europe aren't quite as hard as the setups over here. So, the one thing on the PGA Tour that I think we're all aware of is like not short-siding yourself. Like you short-sided yourself last week at Oakmont, and it's like automatic bogey, if not more. Like sometimes when I go back to Europe or come to a tournament like this, you have to remind yourself, no, you can go at the pin. You can actually fire at the pins here. So, that takes a little bit of a mental adjustment at times. Yeah.
Right here, Joe.
Assuming you haven't seen the course yet, have you heard about
No.
the course changes from Andy or anything along the lines? Or
No.
I'm looking forward to seeing him, just because he shrunk a couple of fairways and from what happened 2 years ago. So
I'm scheduled to play the front 9 this afternoon, but I don't know much about them, but looking forward to getting on the course and seeing it again.
you mentioned clicking something in your game. Do you know immediately when one shot on the range or in the middle of the round, it's clicking and it's working like you said?
I don't think it's one shot. I think it's it's the repeatability of shots. If I can see something or have a feeling that is very repeatable, whether it's on the range is one thing, but then on the golf course is the other. I think that's the proof is in the pudding there. And definitely last week I found a feeling, especially off the tee, that was repeatable, that was working well. And I led strokes gained off the tee last week, which was a big thing for me.
Which round? Any particular?
From the front, I thought I drove the ball well all week last week.
All right, we're going to do our final 2 questions. Joe, if you'll pass the mic right. No, we'll keep it right here, pass to your right, and then we'll finish with Dan.
Hi, Rory. What's it like seeing amateurs try to work their way around a course like this on Pro-Am Day? Where do you see them having the most trouble? And, do you take a moment here and there to try and fix anything about their swing or help them read a green, et cetera?
Yeah, I'll certainly help them to read a green, but, the last thing I think they need is more swing thoughts in their head when they're playing these Pro-Ams. I think sometimes it's just more they try to take shots on, or they try to hit a shot that they probably could pull off once or twice out of 10 instead of playing a little bit more percentage. And that's boring, but that's certainly the most effective way to lower your score.
And final question to Dan on the left.
You're playing in a bunch of national opens moving forward. You've talked about trying to find a new Mount Everest, a new motivation. Is playing around the world part of that? You seem to be going on a world tour this year.
Yeah, I've always wanted to go to India, and the European Tour and DP World created a new event there. So, I was asked at the start of the year would I be interested in going, and I said, yeah, that sounds amazing. It's in the Hero Indian Open's always when it's March, April time. So I'd love to go play DLF and, try to, figure my way around that place. But, this one in Delhi in October made more sense. I've always loved the Australian Open. I've won there before. I played there as an amateur in the Australian Open, qualified for it, went through a qualifier in 2005, got through a 9-man playoff to get in. So I've always had a huge affinity for that part of the world. So to go back, especially, Royal Melbourne this year, Kingston Heath next year, 2 of the best golf courses in the world on the Sandbelt. That's awesome too. But yeah, that's the part of the year where we have the opportunity to travel and to do these things. And if it makes sense for the schedule, and especially, look, I'm excited to, there's never been a green jacket in India before. So to bring the green jacket to India is something that's going to be really cool. To go back to the Australian Open, I won that in 2013. Adam and I had a great battle down the stretch on the last day. He was the Masters champion at that point. So I don't know. I like to travel. I like to play in different parts of the world, and I've never been to India. I haven't been to Australia in 10 years. So it's nice to go back to these places.
Are you going to bring the green jacket to Old Trafford?
I don't. I probably not. I probably don't. I don't know if I'll have the opportunity. If I do, I would like. If I do have the opportunity, I would like to. But we'll see.
All right, Rory. Thanks so much for your time and best of luck this week.
Thank you.